I love these events. I've been doing them a long time, and it's always a lot of fun to hear the company's pitch and to get the feedback from the investors. And one of the things that Nathaniel didn't mention is that one of the really good things about this event is that the investors are very kind in their feedback, right? I'm not necessarily getting responses from that end. And now I'd like to turn this over to my panel and ask each panelist to introduce themselves real quick. So, would you like to start?
Real quick, I'm Dan Burstein, Millennium Technology Value Partners based here in New York. Portfolio of mostly later stage companies. I have a personal portfolio of angel and early stage investments. I used to do early stage investments, but have moved on to focus on what I'd call mid and later stage. And I've been invited to several programs in the last month that reflect the Shark Tankization of the venture world. Several different people who are putting on events like this have decided to call their panel a Shark Tank-like event. So in answer to Lori's comment about kindness, I promise not to treat this like a Shark Tank event.
You will not be Mr. Wonderful? No. That's good.
Me next?
Go ahead.
Okay. Hi, I'm Ian Sigalo. I'm a partner and one of the co-founders of Greycroft. We're a digital media venture capital fund. We're based between New York and LA. We're currently 12 people. And what we do almost all the time are Series A and Series B investments. So a little bit of seed investing, but for the most part, we're writing $1, $2, or $3 million checks alongside other investors in a $5, $6, $7 million A round. And I do personally more B2B investing than B2C investing, but as a firm, we do everything.
So I'm David Tutton. I'm partner at FF Venture Capital. We are the least efficient venture capital fund in the country. We have 21 employees and about $85 million under management, which we can only afford because we've been fortunate to have very good returns in the past. And we're an early stage focused firm. We typically invest valuations below. There we go. Typically invest at the seed stage, so a couple people in a room. We are with 21 employees, and the reason for that is we believe that by providing a lot of services to our companies, we can increase the odds that they become successful. So we help them in recruiting, software engineering, PR and communications, strategy, and all the other processes that they have to go through to build meaningful companies. We've made over 200 investments in over 70 companies since 1999. My other hat is I'm founder and chair of Harvard Business School Angels of New York. We are the second largest angel group in New York. Our members in the past 3 years have invested over $3 million in 60 separate checks. We invest agnostic to where you went to school. If anything, we have a bias against the HBS people. MIT people, so-so. Everyone else, they're fine. So we welcome applications from all sorts of companies.
Each company has 5 minutes to present. We have a timekeeper here. Stephen, say hello. The man with the hidden tie is going to be your timekeeper. Right.
And this will be the symbol for 1 minute to go, and this is 0. As suggested by Lori.
But you did it much better. So we're going to do this alphabetically, and our first company, Dynamic Sports Solutions. You guys want to come up?
So before we begin, I have 2 questions. One, can you hear me in the back?
What?
Okay, perfect. I walk around a little bit, just wanted to make sure. And do you guys mind if I have my back to you at any time during this? All right. Then I guess I'll go on your word.
Yeah, I'm going to use 13 seconds.
Okay. Well, I'd like to introduce Dynamic Sports Solutions. We are here tonight to share with you our vision of helping build champions. So who are we? I'm Dan Hatman, this is Alan Dandar. We're 2 former NFL scouts that got together to build the next generation of sports technology firms. Our first product is called coreDynamix. It is a SaaS solution for prospect evaluation. So our unique background has given us some insight into this market. What you have here is teams that are looking to win championships, but they struggle to build championships caliber rosters. And it looks really sexy from the outside, but it's filled with egos and agenda and error and bias. And so we wanted to cut through that and find a new solution. a lot of it comes from a tension between the two major methodologies in sport human capital acquisition. The first one being the subjective. Think of old guys, binoculars in bleachers, and more modern Moneyball techniques that gets thrown around quite a bit. But if you drop the egos and you step back, there's some best of both world opportunities here between the subjective and the objective. What we've done is put in the best from the decision sciences community to really build the unifying tool that can cut through this murky process. So let's step back from old processes that led to failure rates above 65% and show you what a new solution could look like in this space. We're in New York. Let's picture the Giants, for example. Their veteran left tackle gets injured at the end of the year. They need to find a new cost-effective player that fits underneath their cap. So their decision makers will get together and they'll build what we call a framework for this position. They'll sit down and look at all the traits, all the characteristics that are really valuable to that tackle position and code them all into our system. From there, the decision-making team, we're thinking the head coach, general manager, maybe some coordinators, all get together and they compare these traits against each other to see how valuable they are. How much more important is competitiveness than arm length than run blocking, and as they do this, they're attributing weights to each of these criteria. So behind the scenes, our algorithm will process these numbers against what the coaches and scouts are pulling in when they evaluate these prospects, the things that we used to do for a living. So this data comes in, gets compared to the ideal prospect that the GM just created in the framework, and it produces what we call the CDX score, 100% customizable rating as to how good that prospect fits the model for the player that you're looking for. What we did is we built a workspace here that provides unique visualizations, opportunities to slice this data up, look at it in totally unique ways, to find opportunities to get those undervalued assets out in the market. Now the market is 1,885 revenue-producing programs in North America and Europe across pro and college sports. So for example, let's take the NFL and major college football. On average, each year, they spend between $32 and $36 million on recruiting and front office expenses. These are expenses to find new players. So we're really excited about this space because those football programs only represent 16% of this overall market and annually spend over $5 billion. So what we're going to do is we're going to enter with our software at a price point of $30,000 for an annual license. And we know that this is going to be okay because we bought these tools before. Teams will spend between tens and maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars on outside tools to help them do this better. Our penetration to date, our beta program launches March 1st. We have teams in a few different sports and a media user who are going to test it out. We're currently in talks with a Pac-12 school about an enterprise solution that brings their 17 programs underneath our umbrella. And we're going to roll out our sales in waves. What we mean by that is each sport has a unique off-season and a time to access that market. So right now, college football is in their off-season. We're going to use our pipeline, our network, to reach out and access those programs. Now, we understand that there are some programs out there that sell software for database solutions. You can see them in the bottom right. There's some video solutions. There's even some decision solutions. But there's been no sustainable penetration in this because the companies that have brushed up against it lack the domain experience to actually build the tools that can work in the draft room when you're making those final decisions. And we're excited about this because we can build into the fantasy realm. So what we have here is an opportunity to use the platform that we've built for coreDynamix, previous fantasy tools. We have a scouting academy where 15 guys are learning how to train to be professional scouts. When we package all that up, we have a major value proposition for a market that spent $1.6 billion in 2012 on tools and content alone, not entry fees. We're going to enter it as experts. We're going to target the high money players because we're creating a totally new content for these guys and not access the lowest common denominator. We could potentially work down to that over time. And we are really excited about this because we're not hopeful outsiders trying to penetrate this market. We spent over 15 years in this space with these programs, and we really think we have an opportunity to change the way evaluation and selection of human capital moves in the sport market. So we thank you for your time, and we look forward to any questions.
Did you take a single breath?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
You had 7 seconds left.
All right, we're good.
Somebody want to start?
Okay. I'm supposed to ask questions.
You can ask questions, you can comment, you can give helpful feedback,
Okay.
You could offer money.
you can offer money, thank you.
I'll give you some thoughts, and maybe you can defend kind of my thoughts.
Sure.
When we look at software companies, and we look at thousands and thousands of software companies a year, venture firms, broadly speaking, will fund horizontal platforms that can be used across industry. You look at Marketo, or marketing software, or Buddy Media, social media software. There's 20 or 30 different industries and subgroups that use that software, and that's been a requirement for most venture firms in order to get an addressable market that's big in software. It looks to me like you're building a really interesting vertical. I would call it a niche, but I'm sure there's depth to that niche. It's typically hard to raise venture money for a business that super serves such a discrete part of the market, because you're not going to get everybody, and you'll get some of them, and you may be able to even generate a couple million in revenue, but it's not going to be the type of large company that VCs are going to get excited about. And then on the back end of the presentation, you talk about fantasy sports, and my general view is pegging together multiple niche markets does not create this constellation that I'm getting excited about. I'd rather see a horizontal view across across multiple markets. If this tool, for instance, just to extrapolate, were a way to measure performance of any employee anywhere, and it weren't just for professional sports, which obviously is not the case, it could be something that more folks like me would be interested in. But it feels to me like something that you guys could run and manage on your own, and maybe get some of the managers or the owners from professional sports teams to fund while you go and build kind of a closely owned business that you would run and then ultimately sell to somebody.
So I guess to speak to that, do you want to speak to the horizontal nature of the math behind it? Yeah, sure. So we took planning methodologies that are out there in the decision sciences, and we have our own sort of custom brew of this. People who have played in this space do have a much more horizontal attack to the market, and those companies have gone and had great success both in international markets and here in the United States, but also Fortune 500 companies, government, and they've been able to attack those markets. But because we had such great domain experience, we wanted to focus there first and really vet the product, because we can tell Lori we've done research and used this for other different ways internally. So we know that the tool has the ability to measure other decisions. It's a decision-making tool. So even just within the context of sports, if you wanted to hire a scout, you could be comparing a lot of different scout traits because you're making a hire. Again, it's about evaluating capital, but again, maybe it's about where to set up your training camp. Well, let's evaluate all the different pieces of that would go in a training camp, whether it's like location, resources, support. You could easily evaluate that. So we think there's definitely some broadness that this tool could have in time, and I think it's just going to be a matter of where our strengths are, and then as the funds come in, start to expand from there.
So I wanted to offer a couple suggestions. To strengthen the pitch when you're talking to VCs. So one is, you didn't talk at all about who's building the technology. This is sophisticated technology. A background as a scout is great for the industry, but doesn't indicate competence in coding. So definitely have a slide about who's building it, their credibility. The competition slide, it's a cliche of startups that every single competition slide shows a single company in the upper northeast quadrant and a bunch of other people in the other three quadrants. So it's really not credible that the other guys don't have a clue about sports, right? And maybe it was founded by a software engineer, which is actually a pretty good background for a company like this, but presumably they're not so incompetent that they totally fail to hire anyone with a sports pedigree. So you and your competitive peers are all scientific experiments in search of a valid business model. And it's worth your while to really understand what your fellow scientists in search of a valid business model have uncovered in the course of their research. In general, the space of making human assessment more efficient is a crowded one. I've seen dozens and dozens of companies in the corporate recruiting market, some in the dating market, and so I would view you as fitting into that broader pool. In order to invest in this, I would want to understand what possibility is it for you to get into adjacencies. Because as Ian touched on, that's what really makes this an exciting company. So it would be great if you showed logical adjacencies and what edge your technology gives you. Telling me that you have a proprietary database of the correlation between calf length and yards run, it does not lead to an adjacency, right? But something unique about your technology might be.
Sure. To answer the first part of that, I actually undergrad was computer science at Penn State, worked at IBM as a software developer.
That probably worth mentioning.
Yeah, we snuck it in there, but obviously, yeah, did not highlight it as much. And then we also have a third guy who's actually went to Penn State with me and had 10 years of enterprise software experience building things for, school districts to government to private industry, and the two of us have been developing, every line of code that we have there in less than 6 months. So, yeah.
The numbers on the fantasy sports are just
Sure.
astounding to me. So can I just take a straw poll in the room? How many people play fantasy sports?
I'm not sure the NYC crowd is representative.
All right, and that's what I figured. Can you talk a little bit about what goes on in that market? That's a huge market, it sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, the fantasy market is really exciting because, first off, it's having exponential growth. I mean, obviously, not necessarily represented in this population, but just to give you some ideas. I mean, 10% of people in the United States currently play fantasy sports. In the age ranges between 12 and 17, actually 20% of those people in the United States play. So it's the market's becoming younger and younger. And also with that, you got to understand that people are playing this. 80% of people out there currently, they say they're going to play for the next 10 years. So you go, that's a pretty long-standing interest. But what you don't get is 40% of people currently playing fantasy sports say they're going to play until they die. I mean, for the rest of their life. So when you find people who are that passionate about something, and obviously the relationship part of it is another big thing. There's plenty of people out there playing for big money. And they're obviously driving a lot of the big figures that we see here. But there's a lot of people who play for pride. They play because their neighbors play, or I played in a family league this year, and my mom of all people played, and it was a competitive thing we talked about at the holidays. So it's something that everybody can kind of wrap their arms around and say, I'm excited to be a part of this, and as such, that's why it's having this like viral explosion. And because now you have all these dollars coming into it with the, as we pointed to on our competition piece, all these big platforms like ESPN, Yahoo, CBS, what have you, and the NFL has finally gotten on board with promoting their own platform for this. It's reaching more and more people in different ways. You look at the Xbox One, now they have an app on there that lets you watch TV and have your live fantasy scores updating as you go. So everything is becoming integrated, and it just makes it that much easier to get content out there. And for us, we're coming from the expert level down. We were in the war rooms. We were part of a draft process. So when you have someone who's just playing fantasy sports for 10 years, touting themselves as experts, it's like, great, you beat your neighbor 10 years in a row. You beat the mailman. Awesome. We were there, and we saw how that dynamic went down, and now we can really say, these are some techniques you might want to consider that worked at the NFL level, that worked in the NBA. And now you can apply this to your own draft process. People are going to really take them back and go, we got a chance to attack this from a whole new angle.
There.
So, one question before, maybe two questions, and then a comment. How much capital do you need to do what you envision doing?
So I'm gonna, just because of the SEC rules, so we've instructed all our presenting companies to not talk about the capital raises. So go over them afterwards.
Give me a sense of how far you can get with limited investment, because it's going to reflect what my recommendation to
Sure. For
be.
the first product offering, we're profitable in 2 sales. So that's going to be stable on its own. To move into this space is going to be a different level of development. We got to get into mobile, and so we're I'm not sure exactly how I can hit the numbers to you, but it's not an astronomical.
I mean, especially because we're doing
It's a human capital thing. And think about it as maybe 2 developers and an outside marketer.
And do you think your long-term strategy is in the fantasy market, or is in the
That'll be the
professional?
most sustainable over the long term, yes.
And how do you monetize that?
It'll be an annual subscription basis for those guys with price points ranging between $75 and $100. And we could tier that down, like we said, to reach a broader pool, but that's not the introductory price point.
'Cause my thought would be, I agree with my colleagues that I think it's a difficult business to get pure venture funding for. The applicability is across the horizontal platform is not evidently there, although it might be. And being that you have the visibility of pro sports, if you do get it right, it could definitely be something that could catch on in other areas of business and the enterprise. I mean, there's a lot of people going around who are former athletes, you know, lecturing on leadership and other business issues. I think it would be good if you could get far enough to get to the point where a pro team, or perhaps even a college team, could say that, you know, we actually use this tool and it produced these results that are qualitatively different than the way we were making decisions previously.
Sure.
Because I think we all have various feelings about how intelligent these kind of decision support systems are, how relevant, no matter how particularized you make them, you know, do they really add an increment of value? And if they do, and it's provable, and especially if it's in a big fishbowl like professional football, you're going to do very well. So my thought would be to get, you know, angel investors who are sports enthusiasts who want to be part of this process, or who maybe are big-time fantasy players, or maybe they're even sports stars themselves, and to raise enough capital from those kind of people who can also be marketers of your business and advocates of your business, to get far enough to actually prove the value of the software in a public way.
That's the current strategy over the next 12 months, is to find exactly those people who understand the space and are excited about it, and it can actually be used, like you said, as a face of it, as a marketer moving forward.
And if I could just offer a follow-on on Dan's point. So we're a seed investor in Indiegogo, which is the largest international crowdfunding site. I would start an Indiegogo campaign called Crush Your Neighbor in Fantasy Sports. They pay $100, they get exclusive rights to your product for the 2014 season to get an edge over their neighbor. And that would be non-dilutive capital.
It's a great idea. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Good evening. I'm Doug Schmoll. Thank you for the invitation. Lori, Dr. Weber for setting it up. And I am actually going to change this presentation on the fly. And it's based on feedback that I just heard from the panel, so we're going to try this. I'd like to talk about FlightPartner this evening and how we're going to simplify private jet travel. Ian, this is for you. Business aviation, better known as private jet travel to many, is a niche or niche industry, as you wish, but it's a $150 billion niche industry. The problem is it's extremely inefficient. And the inefficiencies are mainly due to the lack of embracing technology. This is for David. My background is 30 years flying jets and writing code since 1997 on enterprise level. I've written personally about R&D and code about 8,000 hours in this project right now. Look at the inefficiencies. 65% of aircraft availability goes unused. 40% of those used, it returns empty. That's known as an empty leg in the industry. Current software tools, less than a 10% conversion rate. Some of the big operators, less than 1% conversion rate on the software tools, and many of them are not even using current available tools. So we're going to give them a new tool. The basic problem, no centralized reservation system. There's 2,100 operators in the US, 8,600 airplanes are open for air charter. There's no central, no data exchange, no communication in the industry. Different than in the airline industry, which was my business, where you have systems, maybe some of you recognize the names Apollo, Sabre. When you go on Expedia and you book your seat, you're going through those data exchanges. Fragmented IT integration. Everybody's got their custom solution. And again, lack of integration shouldn't be in that sentence. There is no integration. Lack of automation. Believe it or not, people are still sending faxes. They're filling out quotes and faxing it to the B2B side and the B2C side. No single source that aggregates the available private jet inventory and automates the booking process. The solution is FlightPartner. It's a central reservations and auction platform for the luxury travel industry, private jets. And we automate the booking method, and we facilitate the provisioning of travel service suppliers to customers. Think of it as Priceline for private jets. That's the best way to think of it. We do this with a digital handshake. Very similar to what you would do if you got on Expedia. You search, select, confirm, automate, pay. And actually, you could book a private jet as quick as you could book a seat on Expedia. We think of it as a new way to get to point B. And the byproduct of that will be money, subscriptions, data sharing, booking fees, and seat sharing. So where do we start? Where are we now? 2 years of market R&D. We followed the procedures of a minimum viable product. We rolled it out. We built the product based on feedback. We're the first to integrate accurate real-time quoting, first to offer a complete transaction online, intellectual property, provisional patent pending, trademark, copyright. Our special sauce, our search algorithms. These are the partners we have on board now for the trial period. Most notables up on the top left, TAG Aviation, largest in Europe. Bottom right, we just signed a letter of intent with Deerjet Asia, largest private jet operator in Asia. And we got some big players in the US too, Landmark, Elliott, there's a bunch of big players. On the bottom row, Parke Airplane Manager, 2 of the 3 big guys in the flight operations software. We are integrated with their software. We get real-time availability of their aircraft in our system now. On the right, Argus, the largest safety and compliance company out there. We're integrated with their trip check. Rockwell Collins, we have an alliance in place. The agreements are in place. Our deliverable has been passed to them. We're waiting to get the deliverable back from Rockwell Collins. We're go-to-market ready. Integrated with 2 of the 3 larger air management systems. We've registered 766 airplanes, 46 operators, 54 brokers in the trial period. And I think I got it under 5 minutes. I saw you wave your hand.
Great.
18 seconds.
Thank
to
you.
go.
Are there any questions? Yes.
I saw the word broker on this. How important is the broker component?
That is an excellent question, and I'll tell you why. People have tried this in the past and failed. And the reason they failed, they skipped that step. That's the B2B solution. We've developed the B2B solution. It's there, it's operating. Okay, before we move to the B2C, we're going to build out our B2B solution, and we're not going to make that same mistake.
I used to own a private aircraft
Okay?
that I used for myself, and I gave the allocable time to a fixed-base operator.
Right. You have a managed aircraft.
I had to manage the aircraft.
Right.
So the question I asked you was how does the broker fit into the combination?
The broker uses this tool for what we call a rapid workflow platform. In 60 seconds, they fill the trip needs in 60 seconds through the rapid workflow platform. There's none out there doing it.
There's nothing like a real estate agent.
Well, MLS, actually, there's some parallels.
There is
With
an
that-
MLS?
No, there's parallels with the MLS structure, right?
Right.
Where you have available inventory, right?
Right.
So,
All
private
right,
jet.
all right, I'm sorry, go.
One question.
I'm sorry, am I doing this right?
It's okay, fine.
One question. How many tiers are there between, say, assessment citation and the Gulfstream 5 or something like that?
Many.
Repeat the question,
How many tiers are there between, say, assessment citation, which is one of the smaller ones, to a Gulfstream 5 or Gulfstream 650?
Okay. How many tiers are there in private jets? There's ultralight jets, light jets, mid jets, mid-heavy jets, heavy jets, the ones you're talking about, Gulfstream 550. I'm actually rated in that airplane, that's a heavy jet.
Could you just expand on the conversation you just had with the gentleman in front about what other people failed? Are you saying it's because they didn't figure out how to work with the existing brokers in the industry?
Lack of aviation background. Every line of code I wrote, I knew what it was going to do with the airplane. They had no aviation background history. They had money, but they didn't utilize it properly in making the connection in the B2B side of things. They basically tried to leap over what was important to move into that B2C space.
Doug,
I could,
speak that so they can hear you.
I'm sorry.
So there are existing brokers in the industry, correct? So just to make sure I understand, they can use your system. So they're not going to fight you. They'll see you as a tool that they can use to make their process more efficient. Is that correct?
That's correct. Actually, that's what it was built as, an efficiency system. Give you an idea, and this is through our research and development. An average, when a broker gets a call to fill a trip request, it takes an average of 2.5 hours to fill that trip request. A lot of phone calls going on. They complete it in 60 seconds. Fully automated, closed-loop communication between the operator, the broker, and the end client. Within 60 seconds, that aircraft secured, money exchange occurs. Did I answer that?
So, it does seem like we've heard about a lot of these types of businesses for aircraft and for everything else. You know, the kind of shared inventory, shared asset base. We've seen the power of that model on things like Airbnb. We've seen the weakness of that model on things like Zipcar. Why isn't there more? Why haven't other people gotten this right yet? And how do you know that in this market, people are going to, enough of the people with the available inventory are going to contribute their inventory to the system? And what do those economic relationships look like, and so forth?
The answer actually is pretty short. This industry is overly protective of their data, their information. They're reluctant to share. They're reluctant to get involved in an exchange. So when you mention things like Airbnb, yes, there are similarities, but there's actually, for lack of better words, is a certain code to crack to penetrate this industry. And I believe we have the solution to do that. The reason this is necessary is the profit margins in the business are very narrow. And this, without going into too much detail, the people making the money are the middlemen, and this basically brings back control to the environment, to the operators, and in particular the end clients too.
Can you talk a little bit about your beta thus far? Is it in beta? Is that?
As said, go to market ready. We're ready to launch it. I can expand on that a little bit, Lori. We did a little soft launch during the holidays. Wrong time to do a soft launch. There's no private jets and everybody wants one. I had a call from Milan, this company. They wanted to utilize our services, and I said, yeah, we're ready. Well, the truth was we weren't ready, because in this business, you can automate nearly everything, but you cannot automate the last mile. It's a customer-centric business, and you do have to have the client services and staff to take it the last mile. But if we can get it 99 miles, again, that last mile should be the easy part, but we did not have the client services staff in place. In 2 days, I asked this company out of Milan, which was giving me 25 trip requests a day, that we need to slow down, review this, and we're going to get back with them and put this together and make it work right. Again, my concern is I'm coming out of the gate, but I'm not leaving the right impression, so we just basically put it on hold.
Great, thanks. Any other?
What does this do to the cost from a consumer standpoint of utilizing a private jet, assuming you get adopted everywhere? How much cheaper does it become for me to fly private?
At least 10%. Okay.
So instead of $5,000 an hour, it's $4,500 an hour?
Yes.
Okay.
Depends on which jet, of course, but if you're in the 5,000, you're getting a pretty nice jet. The average cost of the jet is $3,600 an hour.
Okay.
What it's going to do is the
But
efficiency.
Point being, it's still not a mass market product yet.
It's not a mass market product, but we're going to bring the price point down, and the result of that is we're going to expand the tier. We're going to create another tier of traveler. So the person that may have gone first class might start to look at a private jet. In particular, if you're moving C-level management around, moving 3 or 4 people around on a first class ticket, you can certainly look at a private jet at that price point.
Great, thanks.
Thank you. Thanks.
Bree Bentley is next.
Hi, my name's Lawrence. Thanks for listening to the presentation. So I co-founded Prevently with my co-founder Kristen, and we were both going to be juniors at Harvard. I have a healthcare background. She has a computer science background. We're working with a team of doctors from Harvard Medical School and serial entrepreneurs who are Harvard Business School alumni. Basically, the problem we're solving is that there's an epidemic of lifestyle-related diseases, such as heart disease, diabetes. People aren't exercising enough. They're not eating healthy food. And if the problem doesn't get solved, 51% of the U.S. population will be obese by 2030. So we thought part of the solution could be Prevently.com, which is a website that helps people live a healthier lifestyle. And so this is done through 5 main components. You have health content created and reviewed by physicians in the form of short articles and videos. You have a telemedicine portal where you can sign up for a monthly subscription where you have a registered dietitian be a wellness coach. And they coach you on your personal health record, which is the track section. That health record integrates the data through APIs from close to 100 wearable fitness devices and apps that you'd buy at the Apple Store or Best Buy. So Fitbit, Wi-Fi bathroom scales, nutrition apps like MyFitnessPal. And they send you messages through the mobile app and consult with you on a weekly basis. There's an e-commerce portal as well where you can buy the devices as well as healthy food. We're also integrating restaurants that will deliver you healthy restaurant items. And there's also social networking tools, which we included because the research shows if your friends are obese, you're more than 50% more likely to be obese. So I'm just going to go through the sections. So the first part is health content. So just think about web properties like Livestrong.com or WebMD that are getting 15 million, or even in WebMD's case, 130 million uniques a month. I have a background in publishing content for large digital media companies like Demand Media and Yahoo, where I personally wrote 3,000 articles that got several million page views. And so we basically publish this content and make it available for free, and people find it in search engines. We also have a 5-year content licensing partnership with Harvard Medical School, and they're talking to 6 other institutions, which gives us credibility above other health properties that publish content. And we're monetizing the content section through Google AdSense, which means that Google writes us a check every month. The second component is telehealth, which is where we think most of the revenue will come from. So for now, it's $200 a month. You talk to a dietitian 30 minutes a week on our software called VC, which is more efficient and more secure than Skype that we partnered with. So 30 minutes per week. You also communicate through an inbox. You take pictures of your food. You wear a Fitbit. You have a Wi-Fi bathroom scale at home, and all this data streams into the cloud. And your dietitian gets an alert, say you're not exercising. They would encourage you to exercise. Or if you're taking pictures of the wrong food, they say, hey, eat healthier food. And so that's the second component. Here's what a telemedicine session looks like. It's 2-way video chat, screen sharing. The background is what the personal health record looks like. You can see sleep, exercise, weight, blood pressure. There's glucometers that plug into the iPhone, nutrition apps, blood test results from LabCorp. There was genetic test results from 23andMe as well. And it's all in one personal health record. So you can go to the Apple Store, buy a Fitbit, drive home, press one button, and now it's wirelessly syncing into your profile. Here's some examples of the devices. So Fitbit, you put it on your wrist, monitor steps and physical activity. There's blood pressure cuffs from iHealth that plug into the iPhone or sync wirelessly. Glucometers that plug into the iPhone. Wi-Fi bathroom scales. 23andMe, which is personal genomics. Scanadu just came out where you can hold this up to your head and do your blood pressure. There's urinalysis as well that syncs with the profile. And you can also keep a visual food diary by taking pictures of your food through our app, which is in the App Store now, and your dietitian would coach you on what you're eating. Here's another example. You don't have to have a coach to use the personal health record. That's free. The idea is that we would kind of hook you into using a dietitian. And then there's a provisional patent around a threshold-based alert system where your wellness coach can basically say, okay, for this patient they need to exercise this much, but someone else might need to exercise a little bit less. And then if you're not hitting your goal, you would get an alert. I'm going to speed up a little bit. Then there's an e-commerce portal. Think of this as the online version of Whole Foods. All the products are reviewed by physicians. Social networking, basic tools, kind of like Facebook, where you can join a group called Bay Area Joggers, for example. And we're focusing on the B2C side right now, so we monetize it through AdSense, subscription, wellness coaching that's going to range from $150 to $300 a month with a 50% margin, and e-commerce where eventually we'll work with Amazon fulfillment services. There are B2B opportunities with corporate wellness, insurance companies, and doctors, but we're holding off on that for now. And there's a $3 trillion healthcare market with more of a focus on prevention and wellness, and 90 million devices, wearable devices, are being shipped to consumers, and those are all target users of the platform. We're trying to build a platform that would eventually have tens of millions or even hundreds of millions of people. The advantage of us is that we put this all in one platform, and other sites like WebMD just have content. or Fitbit just does the device. But we put all these things into one portal to make a one-stop solution that's personalized and integrated. And so we take all these different puzzle pieces and put it together into a one-stop solution. So it's a consumer-facing wellness platform that's very convenient. And we're out in San Francisco right now in a co-working space called Runway. And we just built the technology with an offshore team that I know in the Philippines. Developers have about 5+ years of experience. We have some technical advisors that have PhD in computer science. So Chin worked at Microsoft and Oracle, and Mike Parke helped build love.com for AOL. That's it. Thank you.
I have a question. Since you're collecting all this personal medical data and stuff like that, A, are you HIPAA compliant? And then also, how do you treat the privacy and confidentiality of people's private medical
Yeah,
data?
so the telemedicine software went through a process with the FDA, and that's HIPAA compliant. The site's currently in the process of becoming HIPAA compliant, so we haven't launched the full thing.
With
To
all
the,
this other data that you're collecting into the cloud and everything, what are you doing to protect that?
Right, so first of all, we don't have to be HIPAA compliant if we're just doing it with dietitians, but it is a goal. And so what we're doing is basically we don't use your data for anything except if you choose to share it with a coach. So none of your data is used for anything right now except for it's your data, and if you want to share it with a healthcare provider, that's it. And we do have a partner called Validian, which has some encryption technology that's more secure than SSL. So we are taking the security very seriously.
I would hope so.
Is your focus entirely domestic?
For now it is.
Just
We have
repeat
been.
the question. Repeat the question.
The question was, are we focused on domestic? So for now we are, but there are opportunities to work in places like the UK, and even in, there's opportunities to develop country-specific versions where you'd have the content even in Spanish. We have some large high net worth investors from Mexico that want us to do that. But for now we're focusing on the US because we have a big problem here, and the healthcare landscape is definitely shifting towards prevention and tackling these lifestyle-related diseases. But there are opportunities to expand internationally.
What stage, I'm going to shift it back to the panel, and then if we have time, we'll move to the audience. What stage are you at with users? Are people using the site?
So we really haven't tried to acquire many users. There's 1,500 registered users, 80,000 Facebook likes in our target demographic, and we're just about to start customer acquisition. The platform really is still in beta phase, but we are going to be doing aggressive pay-per-click advertising and content production soon.
Great.
Yeah.
What's happened with 23andMe, and what's the outlook for whether that will be bundled in this offering?
Yeah, so the FDA sent them a cease and desist letter, and we did remove it from the website. Personal genomics is here to stay. It's just a matter of what regulations are going to come into place. It's not a necessary part of the business model, but it would certainly enhance the platform. And so once they work through those regulatory processes, I'm sure we'll be able to integrate it back into the site. And eventually you wouldn't just have a dietitian. You'd have a team of maybe a dietitian, a primary care doctor, a fitness trainer, and then maybe on a case-by-case basis, if you wanted to get a genetic test, you could talk to a genetic counselor. And maybe one of the things the FDA is going to require is, okay, 23andMe, you can give this to consumer, but they have to have a telemedicine session with a genetic counselor. So you'd have other types of healthcare providers on the site eventually.
Okay. First off, we spent a lot of time at Graycroft looking at the wearables and connected devices market and the measured self market. My guess is if you were to survey the current users of Fitbit and other products, that the rate of obesity in that group is significantly lower than the US population, because it's a self-selecting audience of people who already are in shape or are measuring their own food intake and their activity. So the thought that audience on its own requires a healthcare portal because they're obese and you're going to conquer obesity just doesn't ring true with me. So that's kind of point one. I think there will be, that's just not there today, some $10 device that it goes through public schools or whatever that kids are wearing, and maybe the data that comes out of those devices and that audience mirrors more closely the general population trend. That's kind of point one. I think point two, I don't believe that this stuff is going to really change behavior with people who are obese and suffer from the problem that you set out to solve in the beginning. I think that it requires programs and peer pressure and other things that the hardware manufacturers themselves are trying to tackle that problem. And when we've looked across, if you go to CES, there's literally 1,000 companies that are coming from Asia that are building Fitbit competitors and killers at every price point with every feature you can imagine. And they're all trying to build systems, not just hardware, and this would constitute a system. So when you buy this new device in the future, it will come with programs and planning, not telemedicine per se, but it will solve the problem that you're trying to solve, I think, in a kind of cohesive, unified way that doesn't require multiple devices to be hooked together in this Swiss Army knife kind of fashion that you pull together. I do think if you were to disaggregate your solution into specific components, telemedicine in itself is going to be a big business. I don't think that the part with connected devices and telemedicine and content and is necessary to be successful. I would have kind of scaled down my minimum viable product to just a telemedicine portal and figured out a way to fit in with a specific demographic and try to scale that first. You built a lot of product without user feedback yet.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And actually, I think the target users are going to be people that shop at Whole Foods, own an iPhone, are college educated, probably, you
think that it will be the target?
Yeah, it will be. It's not going to be people that are obese.
So, okay, but you started off with
yeah, I should have probably put it differently. I guess in the past, investors have been like, oh, well, no one wants to do prevention. But the reality is although they may not need it, the people that are more health conscious are the people that want this and can afford it. So I agree with what you said.
Okay, so the obesity thing got me on the wrong track.
Yeah, probably need to change that. The second thing is, I just want to comment, there is a company called Retrofit. Eventually you'd hope that there'd be an affordable version, as you mentioned, but for now it's probably not, the obese demographic. There's some people, but it won't be the majority of the users. There's a company called Retrofit that DFJ and Google invested in. They're just doing telemedicine on Skype with Fitbit, and I think they just integrated Y things. And they're successfully charging between $150 and $300 a month. So a lot of people say, oh, well, it has to be B2B. Consumers aren't going to pay for it. But if you think about that as an example, or Weight Watchers as an example, there is a group of people that are very conscious about their health that would pay for this. So pretty much agree with everything that you just said. And we did build too much product. And we are focusing on, telemedicine and the personal health record now. And I guess the good news is we're not building more. But yeah, I agree with everything you said.
So it's not often I can say this, but I can definitively prove that Ian is right, that there will be a cheap, widely available product. There is already a $0 cheap, widely available product that will tell you your fitness level. It's called a mirror. And if you don't have a mirror, look at a puddle of water, and that will tell you approximately if you're obese or not. So despite the widespread availability of this mirror technology, the obesity rate is actually quite significant in this country. So I don't think that data solves the problem, because clearly people have problem absorbing the data from said mirror device, also known as the eye mirror, and actually doing something about it. That's the real problem. So I commend you on your vision, right? So what you've effectively done is you're trying to do 4 different businesses at once, each of which has numerous VC-backed competitors with far more experienced teams pursuing pinpoint solutions. In the history of startups, I don't think there's ever been someone who launched a successful startup with a strategy of, let's have a bunch of different lines of business, right? Like, it just doesn't work, because that requires that all the other people are less competent than you in each of those different verticals. The normal strategy of all startups is you start with one service in one market, and then you expand over time, right? So I'd love, if someone has a counterexample, please tell me, but that's just not the normal way startups evolve.
Well, my response to that, Norm, you have a very good point. But I guess our hypothesis is that 1 + 1 = 3. So if you put all this together, it becomes one service. Granted, there's going to be people that just read content, for example. However, the goal wouldn't just be to have a website that has these 4 or 5 things. It would be to personalize it. So, okay, you have, for example, pregnant mother wearing a Fitbit that has bad sleep data. She has, a primary care doctor and an OBGYN on the platform. And because of the fact she has bad sleep, we're sending her an article written by, an OBGYN that, advises pregnant mothers on how to sleep. So it would become a big data approach. And so I don't view this as we're doing 5 things. It's about the personalization and integration. And that's what makes it more valuable. And I guess with the focus on the telehealth portal in the beginning, we won't get distracted trying to do all of these at once. We built them all. But the focus is just going to be on that one thing, which is the wellness coaching with dietitians, and then we can expand later if needed. But for now, the pinpoint focus is on the wellness coaching, and if people use the other things or not, we'll just have to learn from that. And we might have to remove parts of the platform, but we'll just have to learn based on what the data shows.
So I'd love to invest in a telehealth company. It is a no-brainer that it's ridiculous that doctors can't be reimbursed properly unless you drive for an hour to their office, right? It makes total sense. But the problem is that the regulatory framework doesn't currently allow it. So it pains me to say it, but we know disruption is coming, but as a VC, I am highly uncomfortable investing when I know the regulatory framework will take a long time to get to where it obviously should go.
Yeah, well, there are 25 states which have passed laws saying that insurance companies are going to be required in the next few years to cover it. We don't even think that it's necessary to include doctors on the telehealth portal. We think that it could be a very successful business just doing things like registered dietitians and fitness trainers. Just look at Weight Watchers. They have over 1 million subscribers and have a membership monthly fee, and that's a public company, right? So, and there's no HIPAA compliance with dietitians. There's barely any state-by-state regulation. And so, we're not expecting that insurance companies need to cover this to make it a successful company. We think that consumers will pay out of pocket. And there are numerous proof points of Weight Watchers, retrofit. Just think about all those related things.
I agree with you, but then you have to figure out how you're better.
Right. Well, you need a better user interface. You need a better experience. I mean, it's like, why is Facebook better than MySpace kind of question, in my opinion. You could say you could offer more features, or you can offer kind of a better overall experience. So.
Yeah, so my suggestion is drill down on how you're better than the competition, because to me this is not credible that you are going to be better than all the other many people who are pursuing each of these segments in a targeted way.
Sure.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, Rallyware. Don't all jump up at once. Oh, there you are. Okay, good.
Hey everyone, I'm Eugene Feldman, co-founder and chief marketing officer of Rallyware. About 1.5 years ago, me and my two co-founders got together in Cambridge at MIT for two reasons. One is we really wanted to work with each other. We've known each other for over 10 years, worked on different projects, and have a really good combination of skill sets. And of course, we wanted to solve a very important problem. And the problem that we wanted to solve is we wanted to give a way to organizations and to companies to get audiences that are not on their payrolls to take specific, tangible action. Now, so why did we want to do that? We're seeing a trend, and the trend is both companies and organizations increasingly rely on groups of people that are not on their payroll. You have some industries that have been doing this for decades. For example, multi-level marketing companies such as Avon, Mary Kay, Herbalife. Every membership organization that you can think of, any nonprofit, any political lobby, political campaign, relies on volunteers and supporters, franchise networks, etc. But also lately, a lot of industries have been coming onto that scene, right? Look what's happening in the transportation industry with Uber and Lyft. Look what's happening in the hospitality industry with Airbnb. Look what's happening with brands who are increasingly relying on consumers to promote the brand as opposed to on ad agencies. And the thing is, managing these non-captive workforces, as we call them, is very different from managing employees. There's really one key reason for it. Non-captive audiences do not have to do what you tell them. And managing non-captive audiences in itself is actually a very big market. These are the verticals that we are attacking first because we believe that we can penetrate them the easiest and build a big business in there. But in terms of where we go in the long term, pretty much the sky is the limit. The heart of the opportunity lies in the fact that there is no software that's designed for managing non-captive audiences. There's plenty of enterprise solutions out there that essentially your boss tells you to do something, you do it because it's your job, you track it in either a project management tool or a CRM, and so now your boss knows how you're progressing and how the whole team is doing. But it's really up to your manager to get you to do things. There's some tools that offer supposedly customer engagement. They're really more just publishing tools for advertising on social networks. If you want to get volunteers to do more things, you have to call, you have to have events, you have to convince them. Same thing with independent distributors for direct selling companies. So you basically have to do it manually. And that's exactly what Rallyware is automating through the use of gamification, collaboration, and microtasking. And I would be happy to give a demo of the system to anyone interested after this. Our product is beautiful. We have a very clear SaaS revenue model. And just like the Salesforce CRM can be used for selling flowers or for selling jet airplanes, Rallyware can be used for engaging volunteers or engaging independent distributors or engaging consumers and pretty much any non-captive group that you can think of. So it's just a matter of which one of these do we prioritize. And so these are the verticals that we're prioritizing. As I mentioned, you'll notice that we already have flagship clients in 2 out of 3, so Mary Kay Direct Selling and APAC and National Association of City County Health Officials in the membership organizations, and we're very close to having a major brand in there as well. We have a very strong pipeline. Couple words on Mary Kay, 6-month paid pilot, with the last 2 months focusing on operationalizing the whole system and rolling it out to the 2.4 million distributors. We're seeing really great feedback from our early customers. And we're using pretty straightforward sales approach. So basically, 4 EBRs generating leads via cold calls for 1 account executive. We believe that such team will close somewhere between $1.8 and $2.4 million of business for us per year. We have some data points to suggest that, which is how we're planning to do this with our revenues. And I also wanted to mention that everything that we've achieved to date, which was minimum capital requirements, very capital efficient. So thank you very much. Some key facts, and I'll take your questions.
Could you give us a sample use case for what a customer is actually doing?
Sure. So let's say the use case for the direct selling industry. So let's say you're Mary Kay. Let's say you run Mary Kay, and you want to increase revenues. You can do it 2 ways. You can have the existing consultant base sell more stuff, or you can recruit more consultants into the business. The problem is, statistically, industry-wide statistic is that 8 out of 10 new distributors that you recruit will never sell anything, and they will attrit within the first 90 days of joining the company. And so what Rallyware does is it introduces a gamification system where you give very specific tasks to the distributors to do. Those could be training tasks. They can be pre-sale activities, like some things that are very important. Write down the names of people that you're going to call. Generate 10 cold calls like in X days. Practice techniques for inviting people into the business with your sponsor. So essentially, the things that we know lead those people to becoming successful that they're not doing otherwise. And so we're basically rewarding them for going down that path. And we're giving the Mary Kay leadership like a very important lever of driving performance in the field through basically driving the behaviors of their distributor base.
How do you reward them?
So they earn points for completing very specific tasks, and each company decides what the points translate into. So in the case of Mary Kay, the points are going to translate into some sort of like gifts or a free product. And by setting both the point values on the tasks as well as the thresholds for the rewards is how you drive the behavior. Some of our nonprofit customers reward people with leadership development opportunities, trips to events. So it doesn't have to be monetary.
I'm familiar with Influitive, and I don't believe, at least when I last saw them, that they position themselves as customer management, but rather advocate management. So it sounded very similar to you. How do you position yourself versus them?
Yeah, so what we see that Influitive does is Influitive is very good at, you have some message that you want to spread, and you push it through the Influitive channels, and they will basically have the advocates disseminated on social channels. What we do is, I mean, we can do this as well, but that's not that interesting. What we think is interesting is to get people to come up with very original content. So, for example, we're in conversations with a car brand right now that had like very successful commercials that went viral on YouTube. And so what we're thinking of doing with them is having users film their own commercials, kind of like mocking the already funny ones on YouTube and distributing them to just their friends. And if you look at kind of like the value of those exposures, they're a lot more valuable than just spreading a canned corporate message. And we also allow for offline activities as well. We have verification mechanism to verify both online and offline activities.
Great. Any quick questions from the audience? Okay.
Okay, can I get one more piece of feedback?
Please,
You
go
have
ahead.
A lot of questions. I think this is a good idea. I think the hard part from an enterprise standpoint is training all the people who are in the field, obviously, who are not your full-time employees. You don't want to invest a lot in them, but you want to invest enough that they're successful. And every company has, every company has part-time employees. The question is how fast you can scale this product, but it seems like it's a good idea at the core.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, we've had success. So our longest running customer is actually American Israel Public Affairs Committee, third most influential lobby in the US, and they're using us to run their campus activists. And so we started with them in March of last year. It was about 500 users. We're at about 5,000 users right now. So we've kind of, we've proved that we can scale and we can deliver results, that basically more people get involved, and those already involved do more things for the organization. And those are very offline, very tangible activities. It's not like go on Facebook. It's like plan a visit of your member of Congress to your campus, for example.
Okay. Great. Thank you very much.
All right.
Waste point.
All right, so let me first bend the microphone a bit. There you go. I'm not here to talk to you about anything sexy like planes or sports or even something like healthcare tech. What I am here to talk to you about today is a product that every single one of these companies who presented today, and possibly most of you guys, will use. And the reason for that is because we build human resource software for small businesses. And every single company that presents will, I hope, one day actually be customers, and I hope you guys will as well. So I want to talk to you a little bit about that. Since I have 5 minutes and probably 4 minutes and 30 seconds now, I don't really want to tell you guys anything. I want you to take away just 3 things from this conversation tonight. First is, why are we doing what we're doing? Why are we so excited about this space? The second one is, why is it our team that's going to win? Why are we going to dominate? And the third thing is, what have we been able to achieve so far? These are the 3 things that I want you to take away from today. And if you do that, I'll fly back to Canada very happy. So let's start. Let me just tell you a little bit about what the problem is. Human resource software for small businesses sucks. That's the bottom line. As you can see by the old dinosaur there, the products tend to be archaic. They also tend to be over-featured, and most of the times they're costly. They're not built for small businesses. Small businesses don't need HRIS systems. They need small modules within HRIS systems that do a good job at a few things. So they need things like payroll and time tracking and benefits management. But they need it at very small levels. They don't need complicated rules in the system. And that is the problem that we're here to solve. That's what we're trying to fix, and we're starting that with payroll software. And I'll tell you why in a second. So the solution, we built a payroll product that actually changes the way that small businesses runs payroll today. I don't know how many of you actually have ever used a payroll product, but generally the experience is meh. And it's not just that it's a mission critical part of the business, it's the fact that it takes time to do. So for example, with one of our competitors, it will take you about 2 weeks to sign up. With us, sometimes I sleep in the night, and when I wake up in the morning, someone has run payroll. And it's the difference in the technology and the efficiencies that we've been able to deliver. Simple things like being able to take support requests at 10 o'clock in the night when somebody's actually running payroll, that's the real differentiator. And we started with payroll from all the HR software, we start with payroll because it's very fundamental to a business. As I said, you guys will hopefully use it one day. I'm always closing, as you can see. But also because of the fact that it's actually a very complicated product to build. It's hard to get it right. And when I get to the team slide, you'll be able to tell why we can do it really well. Just so you have a sense of what it looks like inside the app, it's a very friendly app, as you can tell right off the get-go. It's not meant to intimidate anybody. Payroll is a serious subject, but you don't have to be like a Groucho Marx to actually use it. So if you look at we have simple things over here, like we have a little onboarding guide for the user, and we have a little dashboard. So you can tell that even someone who is not well versed in this whole area of running payroll, you can do it. Each one of you can actually use the software, and that's actually our value proposition. Just so you understand, because I know this is a crowded space and people usually think that it's all dominated by the ADPs and the Ceridians and the Intuits, but actually only 25% of the entire market has been taken. So there's 75% left to grab, and this is just North America. And our plans do not stop at North America. So, and I didn't say this, by the way, ADP, who is our largest competitor, said this. So just so you know, it's coming from a qualified source. Let me tell you a little bit about why us. So we have 3 people on the team that can make this work. So we have somebody, so we have Ryan Deneen, who actually built a multi-country payroll SaaS application before. So we have Ryan, we have Alex, and we have myself. And so when you mix together payroll, technology, scalability, and financial management, you basically get a really, really scalable payroll product that has multi-country functionality. So if we want to go to India next, we can go there. If you want to go to Brazil next, we can go there. None of our competitors can do that today, or they don't do it well. Our traction so far, we have 400 paying customers. We launched in Canada, so we're Canadian, full disclosure. We have 400 paying customers. We launched about 6 months ago. Last month, we paid 4,000 Canadian employees through our app. We transacted about $10 million in payroll. We're launching this month in the US, so we'll be coming around with an iPad and signing you guys up. I'm warning you up front. And we have about 150 early signups since we put up our landing page, and we actually have some of these people chasing us now to launch. So now it's the real deal. So if you guys are interested, our early user beta, I have to do a shameless plug here. It's wagepoint.com/US. Please sign up. Thank you very much.
So first, I want to commend you on always being selling. So now, not everyone here may be a customer of private jets, so it makes sense that the flight partner might not be selling in the same way, but it's good to always be selling. I would want to understand the competition more. I've seen lots of people who want to make small business management more efficient. It's an obvious place for the average entrepreneur who is a small business to pursue. So I have heard of others startups that are pursuing this space. I'd like to drill down on that. I will say in my past life, when I was doing payroll for my last company, it felt like an MS-DOS product. So I agree that it is painfully archaic, some of the large company tools that are out there.
Yeah, no, and the competition is the first question that we get. Some of the answers are a bit proprietary, so I'd like to tell you that a little when the camera's not on. But I will tell you at a high level, we have done incredible amounts of customer development and understanding the competitive space. There are 15,000 tax codes in the US. To be able to build a payroll product that can service 48 states like we are going to this month, plus the 2, Ohio and Pennsylvania, which are the really scary states, that's actually very, very complicated. And what we've done is we've put as much into the actual payroll backend as we can. So technologically, it's all in the back. From a user experience, if you were a customer of ours, which I hope our FF Ventures will be, I think that what you'll find is that you can actually sign up so quickly, and so the process is so efficient, and you can also integrate with things like Xero and QuickBooks and all the things that you cannot do with mainframe software, which is what ADP uses. So I would love to tell you some more details about competition, but like I said, this is just something that I'd like to just speak one-on-one, if you don't mind.
So I love this space, and we've spent a lot of time looking at this space too. We funded this company I think last month called When I Work. I don't know if they've come up on your radar or not. And maybe it's why you're a little bit moot on competition, because they have a wage product, but they actually don't provide their own wage product. They partnered with somebody else in San Francisco that does this.
Yep.
Because Google funded what's the wage something, right?
It's Zen Payroll.
ZenPO, yeah. So my general view is that getting the payroll part is really hard. And our companies don't want to get into that messy part about state-by-state legislation and how to process payroll. But I don't think at the end of the day that you're going to be the dashboard that small business managers are sitting in front of every day. It will be QuickBooks, or it will be their labor scheduling component, or whatever else it is. The When I Work guys have 24,000 enterprise small businesses, and they've got 400,000 laborers, and they process $2.5 billion of monthly payroll. They would love to use an API if you had an API service.
We do.
Okay, so to the extent that you're interested, I'll hook you up with them, but I think the API-based system where you enable people from QuickBooks or wherever just to easily export and run payroll without ever having to log into yet another system is a better way to scale this market, because the channel sales are going to be much bigger for you than direct sales into all the small businesses out there.
No, you're 100% right. And what we found is that because payroll is a hard technology to build, we actually get calls from like Bamboo HR. I haven't got one from When I Work as yet, but it sounds like a really good place to go and have a conversation. A lot of SaaS businesses integrate with multiple providers. It's a common thing. Like,
Sure.
There's not a lot of loyalty, right? It's not even a lot of I'll support you if you support me. It's like, let's do what the customer wants, right? That ultimately is what we all look for. So to answer your question, QuickBooks actually does something very different from what we do. We actually run the payroll, and then the actual direct deposits, the remittances, or here in Canada we say remittances, here we say tax reporting, and all the wage reports and all that other stuff, we do that automatically. So with QuickBooks, what you have to do, I'll use Canada as an example, you have to run your payroll in QuickBooks, which is like a payroll calculator, and then you go out and you actually physically write the checks, or you go to the bank and we actually have end-to-end, everything happening from start to finish.
You can push payroll from QuickBooks through your system via an API, or is it not?
They don't allow it.
They don't allow it. Okay.
Yeah.
So you'll find other people that are a better channel, but there's too many small businesses to sell on your own. It would take a very, very long time.
It's very true. One thing that just about QuickBooks is that they don't actually allow you, they're not good API people. They don't want you to actually integrate with QuickBooks very much. So they have something called an IIF file, which you can create, but that's pretty much it. That's where it ends. I think the win for all of us is going to be in integrations, because that's really where you're going to get like When I Work and stuff like that. So I hear your point. If you know someone at QuickBooks we can speed talk, I'm all for it.
Any questions from the audience quickly? All right, one question. Go ahead.
Are you taking custody of any of the remittances?
No, we don't. So so what we do is we actually when you say custody, I'm assuming
You're going to take the tax payments and then you remit them on their feet?
Yes, we do that. We don't keep it. We actually send it to the tax authorities.
No, my point is, by taking custody, you have a legal responsibility that if it doesn't get to the right place, there's a penalty.
Yes.
Is enacted upon not only you, but also on your customer.
You're 100% correct. Yeah, so there's something called a POA, a power of attorney that people have to sign. Yes, we take custody, or we take responsibility for it. So if there's a mispayment, we will pay the fine.
How much of a component is the floating rate earned on those payments, I guess, the timing differences from the point you collect from the consumer to the point that it's remitted?
Did you ask me about the float timing?
Yes.
So it's 3 days. We have about 3-day window in which we actually, it might be 4, to be honest. Like, we're not sure if it's 3 or 4 just yet for the US. I'll be honest, in Canada we have less defaults than I've heard that people have in the US. So that's one of the areas that we're being very, very careful about. I'm actually an accountant, even though it's hard to tell, I hope. So I actually have a CMA from which is like a CPA, but CPAs don't like it when I say that. So that's something we take very seriously, like the whole float thing, because we have a possibility of being like getting NSF'd or getting defaulted. So it's 4 days. I'm going to say right now it's 4 days. We could go to 3 days, but it's between that amount of time.
Okay.
Please sign up.
Any questions? Great, thank you. So that was it. Thank you, everybody, for coming out. Get home safe before the snow starts, and we'll see you at the next event.